Last Saturday, something wild happened outside my gate. A Jehovah's Witness teen, probably around 16, knocked on the wrong gate. And let me tell you, he was not ready for the conversation that followed. And what he ended up telling me shocked me. If you are new here, welcome to Tell Me Dr. K, a channel manipulative religious leaders wish you never discover. Because on this channel, we cut through the noise to expose what is underneath. If you are new here, kindly subscribe and smash the notice bell so that when we upload another video, you receive a notification. And by so doing, you support us to continue bringing you more deep dives and breakdowns like this one. Before I go ahead of myself, let me start from the beginning. I was in my office working when I heard a knock at the gate next door. It went on for some time, so I decided to go out because I thought maybe city council officials or staff from the electricity company were knocking at the gate. So as I stepped out, opened the gate, I saw two young men walking away from the gate next door, going to the third house. I called out to them and asked if they had knocked at my gate. They said, oh yes. So they came back, two young men, one around 15 to 17 years of age, another one maybe mid-20s, formally dressed, of course casual. This time around, they did not have Watchtower magazines. I'm sure they've gone digital. So the young man had an iPad. The older boy had a smartphone. The teen begins speaking confidently, well, sort of confidently. He asked a question that to me sounded a little bit naive, but anyway, I played along. He scrolled on his iPad and then began to speak, talking about how that every religion thinks that it has the truth. But do they really have the truth? Now, I need to explain something to you in case you are not familiar with the Jehovah's Witnesses theology. They believe that only one religion is approved by God on earth, and that is the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. All other religions are considered as part of the Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. And that is a spiritually false religion that is going to be destroyed at Armageddon, according to Revelation chapter 17. So this boy's question wasn't random as to whether each religion has the truth. It was a strategic opener straight from the training manual. Okay, so back to the story. Instead of answering the question that the young man asked, I flipped it around. I asked him, you who is asking about the truth, do you have the truth yourselves? The young man freezes. He fidgets. He looked like somebody who has just unplugged his brain. Finally, he says, we respect every religion. And I pushed a bit. I asked, are you telling me that every religion is accepted before Jehovah? The young man stumbled, very, very uncomfortable. Now, before he could answer, the older boy, who probably was mentoring him, received a phone call and stepped away to take it. And he left me face to face with this boy who was jittery, who was not sure of what he was doing, and probably he was doing the witnessing for the first time. It was like I was the first victim he faced. So it was now me and him having a theological showdown. He finally answers, yes. He had just contradicted the official JW doctrine. Let me explain why that was a big deal. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that only baptized witnesses will survive Armageddon. Even they are not saved, because salvation depends on lifelong commitment to Jehovah and his organization, especially his organization. Therefore, there is no assurance of salvation as far as Jehovah's Witnesses are concerned. That's why they have to keep on doing works. They have to keep on going around witnessing, talking to people, trying to bring as many people as possible in Jehovah's organization. And perhaps by so doing, they will be spared at Armageddon. That is after they get baptized. And Jesus is not someone you trust for eternal life. He is the model you imitate.
So when Jesus got baptized, he presented himself to Jehovah to do his will now as the Messiah. And that involved his preaching activity about Jehovah's kingdom in the coming times, and it also involved his ransom sacrifice, offering his life. Again, what do we learn from this third baptism? Well, 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21 makes a statement that all of us as Jehovah's people have heard many times. It says that Christ left a model for you to follow his steps closely. A model, following steps. What does that really say in simple terms? We're going to copy him. We have to imitate him. And we have to imitate the spirit he showed. And in reality, Jesus had a willing spirit. Yes, Jehovah, whatever you want, I'm willing to do. That helps us understand that. Moses' baptism, John the Baptist baptism, and Jesus. They give us insight into our thinking and how Jehovah views these things.
And paradise is hope and not guarantee. So when the young man said all religions are acceptable before God, oh boy, he said something that would get any JW elder's eyebrows reach the ceiling. And then this young man said something that shocked me. But I'll get back to that later. The older boy comes back and I ask him a question. If the end of system of things came today, how sure are you that you enter into paradise? And he said the standard JW answer, it depends on Jehovah. Meaning, even if they do everything the organization tells them, their salvation is still dependent on Jehovah. I told him, me, I'm 100% certain that if the end of the system of things came today, I would definitely go into paradise. Now, at this point, I try to avoid using evangelical language, like getting saved, like going to heaven, like being born again, and all that. I still maintained the JW language in the discussion. Then I shared John chapter 5, verse 24, which says, he who believes in Jesus has passed from death to life. I added John 3, verse 16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So I said, according to these verses, I am certain that if the end of system of things happened today, I would go into paradise. Then I shared my testimonial of how God changed my life 38 years ago. I explained to him how that after I surrendered my life to Christ, after the people who had invited me to a Christmas party preached the message of salvation to me, and I made my decision to repent of my sins. An hour later, my heart was filled with so much joy that I've never experienced before. I had such a surge and appetite to read the Bible. Luckily, I had one which the Catholic priest had given me, and unfortunately, I had not even opened it to read a single verse. And I said, from that time, my life has never been the same. 38 years down the road, that was a defining moment in my life. And the young man said, well, even me, when I was young, I didn't like going into ministry. But now when I dedicated my life to Jehovah, I'm very happy to do ministry. Then I asked him, when did you personally decide to follow Jehovah? So the older boy answered and said, well, the decision I made was basically the time when I made a commitment to be baptized. He responded with the JW standard. Let me explain. Again, if you are not familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses. For Jehovah's Witnesses, baptism is not about personal faith in Jesus Christ. It's a pledge of obedience to Jehovah's organization.
Well, that brings us down to today. And as we think about it as a candidate for baptism, you've taken time, you've studied. In prayer, privately before Jehovah, you said, yes, I'm going to serve you forever. You will be the owner of my life. I'm now dedicating myself to you. And this baptism that you're about to undergo as it is gives clear evidence of that. And we're proud of you for that. But here's a question. We make that dedication. How does Jehovah react? Look at Malachi chapter 3 and verse 17. And here, interestingly, it says, "They will be mine, says Jehovah of armies, in the day when I produce a special property." Interesting. How does Jehovah think about those who offer to serve him? He calls them a special property. Some translations say treasured possession, special treasure, jewels, precious to me, special status, my very own most prized possession. That's not every day. That's something very unique. It actually brings a tear to our eyes, thinking how appreciative Jehovah is and how much he loves us. And he furnishes the verse saying, "I'll show them compassion," or tender feeling of mercy and concern. And he says that's going to be done just like a man does to one of his children who serves him. It really is a privilege for us to know that, to realize that we're special to Jehovah and have recipients of his tender feelings. What a loving and caring Father. Well, that means that now you will become part of Jehovah's happy and united family. And you have the honor of carrying his precious name. None of us ever want to lose that, whether we've been baptized for a few minutes or we've been baptized for decades.
You are baptized only after you pass an interview. And you should have been going around witnessing. I remember somebody who had been in JW some years back saying that you needed to bring at least 10 people into the organization. I don't know how true that is. I've never come across it. But you really have to be proven. You should have been an unbaptized witness or publisher, and then thereafter you have to answer questions before a panel of elders. One viewer of my video said he was asked over 140 questions. So for you to be baptized, you have to prove your loyalty to Jehovah's organization. It marks an entry for you into the organization, not salvation. So let me return to the response the teen gave me that shocked me. So then I said, "Do all religions have the truth?" He whispers, "Yes, every religion has the truth." Now, knowing the JW theology, I said, "So are you telling me that every religion is acceptable before Jehovah?" The young man finally cracked and said one of the most shocking statements I've never heard from any JW. "Sir, I think I did not come prepared. I'll go back home, do my homework, and then come back." My heart honestly sank. The kid didn't even want to be there. He wasn't ready. He was a pure grade amateur. And the person he was with didn't help him for leaving him alone with a seasoned theologian. I felt pity for the teen. I knew if he had a choice, he would not have even gone witnessing, knocking on people's gates of total strangers. Just imagine how irresponsible his mentor was, leaving him with a person who was 3 to 4 times his age to debate theology with somebody who is trained in theology. Before they left, the young man said, "Sir, can I have your number so that I can call you so that we can continue the discussion?" So I gave him my number, and the older boy said, "I'll send you a missed call so that we can arrange to have a discussion again." They promised to return, but it's now been more than a week. No call, no message, no follow-up appointment. Maybe they're avoiding difficult questions. Maybe they're rethinking things. Maybe they told somebody older what happened when the older boy left him with me, and they warned him never to come back. But here's what I do know. When people encounter the grace of God, not an organization, not a system of works, it stays with them. And maybe, just maybe, I planted a seed in those young people. A seed of doubt that maybe for the first time they've begun to doubt what they think is the truth, realizing that there is an alternative truth. If you enjoyed this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell for more. If you are interested in my personal testimony of how I gave my life to Christ and my life got changed, transformed instantly, without doing anything other than just giving my life to Christ, click on this link to watch other videos We have analyzed the JW doctrines. Click on this link.